What is up, most distinguished patrons of this channel? Guess what? It's a surprise interview day. No, actually, we're going to talk about how to get a job, like your first job in welding or a welding related career, as well as how to advance your career in welding. If you're not happy with your pay and benefits where you're at, we're going to talk about options for you. So with that said, let's get into it. So this is something that I wanted to do a video on for a while and then somehow forgot about it. And I've seen a lot of comments on the channel recently of people talking about how they're graduating from their welding schools and they're going out to the working world. And by the way, I'm so proud of you guys for doing that. Like, it's awesome, like bettering your skills and education. It only brings good things in the long run. So to start things off, I want to talk about this plate that's in front of us right now. This is one of, I believe, 4 or 5 test plates that I welded up one night prior to going in for an interview years ago for a job. And I tried to do a really good job on everything on the test plates. Again, this is one of multiple. And long story short, during the interview, of course, it was asked, what is my welding skill? What processes can I weld? And not only was I able to say, well, I can do TIG, MIG, stick, dual shield, and a bunch of other stuff, but here are examples. And I took these things out of a case that I brought with me and handed them to the people doing the interview. Not only that, I kind of made a joke about it, and I said that, yeah, I welded up these last night back to back, you know, so I'm at least fresh and you know what you're getting, rather than some people might do this, say, in college or in school, and then 2 years go by, they haven't touched TIG since. And then, well, the question is, of course, is, well, are these actually yours, and are they actually recent? Like, do you actually possess the skills? So long story short, in a joking manner, I was able to eliminate any kind of doubt that they had in a confidence in me as a person and my ability to weld. And the reason I bring this up is because if you're interviewing for a first job right out of welding school, or you just have taught yourself how to weld and you want to get a job in welding, simply putting in a little bit more effort in the interview is a great way to increase the probability of you getting hired. I have a saying when it comes to the whole interview and hiring process: your resume will get you the interview will get you the job. The key is you have to get in to talk with someone at a place of employment to even have the potential of getting a job. And that is where your resume matters hugely. If you can get the interview and you do reasonably well in the interview, your probability of getting offered a job is much higher. And that's why we're going to talk about resumes next. I cannot stress enough how important it is, especially in today's world, to have a solid resume. Now, if you're a younger cat and you're 16 to 20 years old and you're looking to get into a welding job or some kind of manufacturing, obviously your resume is going to be a little bit light, and that will make it difficult to gain employment at places that pay decent money, because they're looking for people with experience, they're looking for people with skills. And unfortunately, in the working world, right or wrong, the assumption is if you're young and don't have much of a resume, aka you don't have a bunch of places you worked at, a bunch of things to prove for your existence at this point, employers are just going to look at that and throw the resume in the trash. The truth is, though, is that you can be a younger cat, you know, 16, 20 to 22 in that ballpark, not have a whole lot of experience on a resume and still likely get a job. So don't let that discourage you. But what I can tell you is, if your resume doesn't have many places of employment, or you have very spotty employment, like you've worked a month here, a month there, I hate to tell you, but to get a good job, you might have to stick it out at some place for 6 months or more, a year, just to build up dependability. It has to do with your reputation. One of the things I learned a long time ago is that if you can go into an interview and they ask you, because you know they're going to ask you, why are you leaving your current employment? Well, if you're not employed at all, well, I don't have a job and I'm looking for a job. Well, that's great. The next question is going to be, well, at places you've worked, what would your boss say about you? Or how is your attendance? If you can go into an interview and say, well, for the last year, I was never late, I never called in sick, and I had no issues, and I'm looking to just get into something better suited to my skill set, that's a great answer to that. That's an answer that an HR person wants to hear. What an HR person does not want to hear is that, well, yeah, I had 3 jobs in the last year and I don't like the bosses, or they had issues in that. Guess what? If you have an issue with your employer or your previous employers and stuff, that's great. Don't bring it up during an interview, because guess what? That HR rep is going to think that it's you with the problem, not the previous employers. Now, when it comes to the interview process, I get it. Most of us suck at interviews, and it's part of life. Like, it's a skill development that's separate. Like, you can be the greatest welder, and if you interview terribly, you might not get the job. So, regarding interviews, the best advice I can give you guys, especially if you're starting out, is you want to be honest. You don't want to be cocky. You want to talk about what your skills are, what you can offer. You don't want to talk bad about any previous employers. That's a trap. Like I talked about earlier, HR person is going to ask you possibly about a previous employer, like, why are you leaving her? Say that you're looking to get more skill, you're looking to get certifications, you're looking for something that's a bit more challenging, you're looking for hours. And back that up with saying, my current employer is great. I just want more opportunity for myself. That is going to put them at ease that you're not one of them kind of people that just complains about everything and is going to cause problems. Because what an interview really is determining if you're A, going to show up to work, B, if you're going to cause problems. Because remember, the person that is interviewing you, or people, are probably going to have to deal with you. And if they get any whiff of skunk, any garbage that's in that interview that they just think you're not trustworthy or you're going to cause problems, they're going to cut their losses and not call you back. So your goal is to convince them that you're a decent person, that you work hard, that you have skill, and even maybe more important than those, that you listen and you're willing to learn new things. One of the things I found, especially I'm an older cat, that in interviews, a lot of people ask me personally questions and they try and dig a little bit and figure out if I will take advice or do things the way that other people do it. A great question I get asked is, if a foreman of a job that you're on has a certain way they want to do something and you don't do it that way, or you think that's a problem, how would you deal with it? I've been asked that numerous times, and my answer, right or wrong, is the following. I tell them that, well, I'm not the foreman and the foreman makes the decisions, therefore I'm going to have to go with what they say. I may make a recommendation of a different way that might be faster, but if they say, no, we're going to do it this way, then we're going to do it that way. And I will always caveat that if it's something that's blatantly unsafe or dangerous, I may step up and say, no, I'm not doing it this way, because I'm not getting hurt for that, right? But hey, I'm nobody to tell somebody else that's running a job how to do things. That, I feel, is a correct answer to it. And that's one of those things, they're fishing for information from you. That's what an interview is. They're trying to find out if you're crazy. I guess if you're the right kind of crazy for the job that they have open. So try not to paint any employer in a bad light. Try and be humble about things. Don't talk your skills up higher than they actually are, because if you're claiming that you can like root pipe x-ray level with TIG and then you can barely do a fillet weld, they're gonna find out. And speaking of that, I'm going to share a real quick story with you guys. I met a guy who was a dump truck owner operator, and I had to do some weld repair on his stuff. And he told me a story of a number of years ago. He had applied for a welding job because he heard they made good money and it was easy work. And he applied for the job, and somehow this employer actually hired this guy on with no experience, and then they put him to work, only to find out the first day he was on a job, he didn't even know how to set a wire welder, and he ended up basically getting let go the first day by the shop foreman where he was at. And he kind of laughed about it, and I'll tell you what, I kind of laughed about it too, because you got to be pretty good at talking to get a job in welding when you can't even do it. And I don't know why they didn't weld test him, but whatever. I thought that was pretty hilarious because, yeah, sure, you can get a job and you can talk your way into anything, but if you don't have the skills to pay the bills, it's only going to end up in you getting let go. And who wants to have that happen? So be humble about that, of your skills, and be honest about them, because nobody likes to be lied to. Speaking of skills, that is going to be the next stop on this. If your skills are not up to par, aka you can barely run a bead, you're probably going to have a hard time finding employment. And that's why I work so hard to make videos on this channel and talk to people in the comments, is because I want you guys to improve your skills, because those of you who want to gain employment in welding, you have something to work with. And your skill set is immensely important. If you guys had experience welding pipe with TIG and stick, and like you can do x-ray level welds, you pretty much won't be without employment unless you have some major personal issues. That is how in demand welding is. I mean, if you can prove you can do a high level of it, you are guaranteed employment in the economy that we have today, which is great. However, the question is, how do you get there? Well, if you can't run much of a bead, the most effective, cheapest way to be able to gain a skill of welding is to go out and buy an economical welder, like something from Harbor Freight, a bunch of scrap steel, and sit down and weld for a couple hours a day, 5, 6, 7 days a week. And it won't take much more than a month, month and a half for you to possess enough skill to get an entry-level job in welding somewhere. YouTube University, be it this channel or any of the other great people that post videos dealing with welding content out there, YouTube University is more than enough information. The thing that separates you from the possession of welding skill is not access to information. It's not a lack of information. All the information you could ever ask for exists on this channel and elsewhere. What separates you is your dedication and your investment in practice. The more time you spend welding, fillet welds, lap welds, butt joints, vertical up, all of that, the better of a welder you will be and you will become, and typically the more pay you can get. And speaking of that, I myself took only 2 classes in college, night classes. Well, maybe I think 3 classes, just a couple hour a night, 1 day a week classes. And I was able to gain enough skill between that and the thousands of hours of practice in my home shop that I was able to land some pretty high level welding jobs that paid really well without having a formal 2-year degree or going through like a pipe welding school or any of that. Welding is one of the few skills out there that you can actually make a ton of money without being formally trained necessarily. And I'll compare it to like the building trades. If you want to be a carpenter, it's going to be pretty hard to get the skill to be a carpenter. Can you do rough framing? Well, yeah, where do you start though? Like you need to learn from people that know what they're doing. And it's difficult because like building houses, well, that's pretty expensive. And how are you going to gain a skill on, say, building a house or building cabinet or doing molding without doing a lot of it? And it's so expensive, it's just not doable, I think, for a lot of people. The approachability of welding from an initial investment, $500-600 initial investment, which would buy you like a stick or MIG welder from Harbor Freight, some material and some consumables, and you can teach yourself, in a couple months enough to get a $25 to $30 an hour job, depending on where you are in this country. I mean, that's pretty awesome. And I can't stress enough, if you are looking to get into a particular place that does welding or fabrication, it wouldn't hurt to send them an email asking them, what skills do you really need to get hired there? Like what processes I need to know? What types of materials do you guys work with? And even in an interview, if you manage to get an interview at a place, ask them those questions. When they say, do you have any questions for us? Ask them all of that. Gain information on what they actually do, and then gain the skill to do that. Because if they don't hire you, guess what? You go home and you practice what they do and then go back and tell them, hey, I can do that, and hand them examples of it. So you eliminate any doubt as to your capability. Now, one thing I will say when it comes to raw skill, if a particular employer requires certifications and you don't possess them, well, guess what? You're not going to get hired. And that's why in that particular case, you need to spend the time and the effort to figure out how to get those certifications. Now, a vast majority of employers have their own certifications. It's like an in-house certification where you're certified to their work. And oftentimes they will certify people from the street as they come into that type of work, but they want to know that you're capable of doing that from the beginning, because a lot of employers aren't training facilities necessarily. However, there are certain jobs that require state level certifications like state structural. Those types of certifications you may be able to test into for a fairly small fee at a local community college in order to get them. So that's something to look into. Now, when it comes to pipe welding skills, well, that's a whole different ball game. I myself am certified through the United Authority, or what's called the UA. It's more or less a governing body that represents all of plumbers and steam fitters, pipe fitters in America that are union, and their certifications are more or less the gold standard. I can go and weld a piece of pipe anywhere in the country at almost any facility, and that is why they're the most valuable. However, there are certifications for pipe welding through other agencies such as the American Welding Society and some others you may be able to get outside of working for a union. Speaking of which, the union route is also a very good way to get into employment, be it an apprenticeship or some kind of training contract. If you can weld and you sign up for an orientation to possibly get an apprenticeship with a steam fitter or pipe fitter union, they will look at that very highly, because welding skill is a lost art in today's world. And if you can prove you can do it to some extent, you will likely have a higher probability of getting a job or getting an apprenticeship. So if you're 18 to 22, 25, or even a little bit older, it wouldn't hurt to go talk with your local steam fitting, pipe fitting union and go that route. Speaking of the whole union apprenticeship, I want to throw this out there as well. It wasn't that long ago, 10, 15, 20 years ago, where getting hired into those types of unions, if you didn't have friends or family that were members, it was almost impossible. That nepotism really existed. I can say that in today's world, it is a completely different world. A lot of unions out there realize that not all relatives of a particular person are necessarily worth hiring into a union and training them. And likewise, they realize that they're missing out on a lot of really highly skilled candidates that have no experience in steam fitting, pipe fitting, that are applying and not getting taken because they're not family or friends. And I can honestly vouch that the union that I'm a member of, approximately 50 to 60% of all of the current apprentices have no family in that union. So that's clear evidence that things are turning around for the better. Anyways, to find out what Boilermaker or steam fitter or iron worker unions are by you, just search your city and put iron worker or steam fitter, and it'll come up with your local union, and peruse their site, gain some information. Consider going to an orientation meeting and take it from there. So now let's talk about the elephant in the room when it comes to getting employed as a welder, and that is welding tests or welder qualifications. And it's pretty common for employers to say, all right, cool, you passed the interview, come into the shop and weld this together. Now, they may actually give you a part with blueprints to weld to, or they may just give you a couple flat plates and say, run a bead on it. Every employer is different. Generally speaking, the higher the pay, the more strict the requirements would be. I had one job where I was a lead fabricator welder for a municipality, and I went into the interview, showed my test welds, talked a bit about my welding experience and what I can do, and that was it. They hired me on without ever doing a qualification test. Now, that's fairly risky, because as an employer, if you do that with someone and you wind up like that story I told you where you hire a clown that can't do the work, well, you just wasted your time. Most places will do a weld test. In order to join up with the local steam fitters that I'm a part of, I had to do 16 hours of weld testing, and I'm not exaggerating. I went in for 2 8-hour days, 8 hours straight, not a lunch, not a break. I didn't even take a piss break in it. 8 hours straight of welding things to prove that I could do it and I'm the guy that they want. Now, part of that, I think, was just an evaluation of, are you willing to work? Are you willing to put in effort? Do you listen? Are you trainable? And do you possess skill? So, yes, a lot of it was skills evaluation, but more of it was just, does this person have work ethic? Now, I would say that no employer or potential employer would ever put you through 16 hours of weld testing, but I would expect an hour or two, or at least something to show that you can weld. The key to passing stuff like that is, well, practice, watch YouTube videos, etc. You get that. But if you can get any information on what they're going to have you do ahead of time, practice it. When I went into that 16 hours of weld testing, I didn't know for sure everything I would be doing, but I knew that I was going to be doing some dual shield flux core vertical up. I was guaranteed I was going to do that. So guess what I did the night before? I spent 6 hours dialing in the machine I have for running dual shield and practicing to try and get something that resembles decent work done. And guess what? I was able to dial it in. And then I went into the test the next day and wasn't deer in the headlights. I could kind of get things dialed in and did a decent job. That little bit of effort will make all the difference in the world for you. If you find yourself in a dead-end welding job where you're making 10, 15 bucks an hour, which around here would be almost poverty wages. I mean, it would be poverty wages considering what everything costs nowadays. In order to get out of that cycle, you need to do something that's really difficult, and that something is improve yourself. The hardest thing for anyone to do when they're in a situation they don't like is to take ownership of where they are in life and do something about it to improve it. It's too easy just to go home, put your feet up on the couch, and crack a beer open and suck it down and do nothing to improve your situation that you don't like. And that's why, to get to higher level in life in general, you have to invest in yourself. And that's not just welding, that's everything. Now, when it comes to skills development, if you're currently welding, then obviously you have access to machines. Talk with your current employer. Maybe ask them if you can stay later and practice some stuff that you suck at. You don't have to tell them that you're trying to leave, but if you can utilize even your lunch break or an hour after work and practice on something, that will pay dividends in the long run. Likewise, if your employer offers no certifications for you, I would highly recommend you contact local community colleges and see about if they will allow outsiders to come in without being part of a degree program and test for certifications like state structural. Some will. Or if you could sign up for like an advanced night class for, like, say, stick welding, pass and get a certification as part of that. Your marketability with any kind of certification, it's a piece of paper that says at least on one day you were competent. That will also benefit you. Another not easily taken option is to go to school and get a degree in welding or welding technology or some form of engineering. I had a college professor, a criminal justice, criminal law professor. He had a saying that he really hounded and pounded into people. Your integrity and your education are things that nobody can take from you. You can give them up, but nobody can take from you. And that kind of resonated and stuck with me ever since I heard it. And I agree with him. If you go and get some form of education at the college level, that's something that you have that other people likely don't have. I have a degree in criminal justice, okay? That degree is completely irrelevant to welding or steam fitting that I do. But on paper, when I was in an interview, I could slide my resume across and it said associate degree in criminal justice plus all these other qualifications, right? That's something that many other people don't have. And it didn't matter that the degree wasn't in what I was applying for. The fact I had it showed I was capable of something. And when you're in a competitive hiring situation, a simple, even a 1-year certificate program from a community college for welding is something that will absolutely elevate you higher than the next guy. So anything you can put down on that resume that shows that your existence as a person, that you've done something, is only a good thing. It only will better you. This is relevant to everyone out there, and that is don't give up. If there's one thing I found in this life is when you're down in the dumps and things aren't going right, it's amazing how fast things can turn around from a simple phone call or a job offer or something. So you got to keep your head up even when things are tough. You got to remember that having a rough patch is typically temporary. If you do things smart and you set yourself up, that rough patch or patches will be very infrequent and short in length. If you do a lot of things wrong in life, you're going to struggle your whole life. And that's why it pays to live your life for the long run and not for the short-term gain. So now we're going to end the video with some useful information on things you can do from the comfort of your couch or your bed, and that has to do with online training. OSHA 10 and OSHA 30 are often a requirement for a lot of employers, aka anyone they hire has to be trained for at least OSHA 10. OSHA 30 is a lot better. If you're looking at adding some training and some qualifications, I would go for the 30-hour. The 10-hour really isn't worth it in my opinion. 30 looks better on a resume, and honestly, it's all useful information you should probably know anyways if you're getting into the trades. These are from training360.com. There are cheaper places out there, but you're going to spend, I would say, at least $120 for the OSHA 30. And it does take an actual 30 hours to do it. It's not the easiest thing in the world, but you can do it at your own pace. Highly recommend you get that 30 hours so you can add it to your skill set. So now the mining industry, if you're looking to get into that, they have specific training similar to OSHA that's all for mining, and that's the one on the right. It costs a little bit more than the OSHA 30, but if you're looking to get into the mining industry, that would be something to look into. Likewise, something as simple as that building maintenance and management series, that's something that you can put on your resume or your application. And no, it's not a high-level certification or anything, but it will at least familiarize yourself with things that you might find in facilities and dealing with maintenance. So it's something that you could consider. Probably the guaranteed most useful certification you could have is something like a fork truck, telehandler, scissors lift, aerial boom lift, anything like that. And this is all through United Rentals. Your local rental company might actually do certifications and training. Highly recommend you look into that. Yes, most people, including myself, got all of these certifications through an employer, but if you're trying to get hired and you don't have an employer that can get you these, guess what? Paying for them on your own and getting them on the resume is a great way to get a higher level job because they don't have to worry about training you and spending that money. Every fab shop I'm aware of has a forklift, so even that one on its own would be 110% worth getting if you don't have it. All of these things here would also be worth looking at, especially the rigging. Local community colleges and other training facilities often do rigging type classes for fairly cheap, sometimes even free. So I highly recommend looking into options in your area and see what you can drum up. So now let's talk about 10 things to avoid when you get hired as a new welder, or this would actually work for really any position. These aren't in really any kind of particular order of importance, but number one, being cocky. You don't want to show up to a work site and kind of have a real big ego and think you're the best person there and start issues with that, because guess what? If you're new to the business, or even if you're experienced, you probably don't know everything and there's really no point in acting like it. Let your work speak for itself. It'll do all the talking that you need. Number two, talking trash about other people's work. We're all guilty of making fun of some bad welds or bad quality work. It happens. We can laugh about it, but talking about someone else like they're the worst thing ever and that the quality of their work is not good, they don't have skills, that just kind of makes you look pompous to a certain extent. And especially if you're new in a workplace, don't fall in that trap at all, because you'll make enemies faster than you realize. Number three, turning down overtime. If your work offers you overtime and you're a new employee, my advice to you is find a way to take it. Not only do you not know how much overtime you're going to get, but overtime is more money in your pocket. you got to figure that a majority, probably the 20 to 30 hours a week that you work, the initial 20 to 30, will pay your bills and everything, and you only get to keep what's left after that. So, 8, 10, 12 hours of overtime in a week could potentially double the amount of usable, spendable income you have versus not taking it. So from a financial standpoint, you definitely should take it. But employers, especially when you're new, kind of expect you to take it. So my recommendation is don't turn down overtime. Number 4 and 5 are sort of one and the same. And honestly, I don't get where people learn that not showing up to work or showing up late is okay. I'm a disorganized individual, and guess what? In the last 2, 3, 4 years, I've probably been late maybe 1 or 2 times. If I can do it, anyone should be able to do it. So don't show up late. Show up 10 minutes early, sit in the parking lot, if anything, and then go into work. And not showing up, if you no call, no show, you might as well pack your bags and leave. Like, why waste an employer's time? I get it. We don't work hard for an employer to do better. We work hard so that we have spending money and can do stuff that we want to do. But at the same time, don't take advantage of it. No call, no shows, or constant calling in. I've never known anyone that does that kind of stuff that can get to any kind of decent job in life. Your reputation matters. And when your reputation is, where the hell is that guy? You're not going to get anywhere. Number 6 is a big one, not listening to advice given to you by other people. I don't care if you think the person's an idiot, at least listen to what they say okay, and then walk away or whatever. I got a true story with this number 6. An individual, an apprentice that I worked with, he was not doing the best welds. He was having some issues, and some senior journeymen tried to give him advice on how to improve, and his response was, "Oh, I don't need to know any of that. I'm a professional. Like, I'm okay." And then guess what? 2 weeks later, when they pressure tested a whole bunch of piping, like hundreds of feet that he welded, he had 16 leaks that failed pressure test. So not only did he make a major screw up and cost the company a fair amount of money and pissed off people that had to go in and fix the welds, but he also got laid off as a direct result of it. So be humble about stuff like this. If somebody offers you advice, listen to it. They might know something you don't. Oftentimes when you're new, you're going to get told to do some things, like maybe even read a blueprint, and you might not know how to. And rather than just trying to tackle it, weld some stuff together and have it all screwed up, spend a little bit of time to ask around or ask the boss, ask somebody, try and get some more information so you don't make a major screw up. Sure, it might be a little bit inefficient and a little bit wasting of time to some people, but hey, I'm telling you, you're far worse making a major mistake and then trying to figure out what to do with it than not doing it at all and finding out the right way. Number 8, not caring about the quality of your work. This will definitely get you in trouble. I've worked with a lot of people that just don't care about the quality that they associate their name with. And this will lead to a lot of bad habits and a lot of problems and likely layoffs or getting fired. So you should really care about what you put your name to. You don't have to be the best, but if you put a bad weld down, maybe grind it out if you have the time. If you don't have the skill necessary to do quality work, spend a little bit of time practicing. Caring about what you associate your name with will matter, and it'll only elevate your status and likely get you to a higher level job than people who don't care. Avoid those people and don't be that person. Number 9, this one I always found funny, and that is getting on board with negative people. Every workplace has 1 or 2 people that are just terribly negative, and they bring everything down, and they have nothing good to say about a company. What you need to understand is negative people, it doesn't matter what they're doing, who they're working for, they're just negative. So if you get on board with them, they'll bring you down to their level, and then you'll be unhappy about everything, and you won't see the positives. And when you're a negative person, nobody's going to want to work for you, work with you. You're not going to get promotions. Like, nobody likes a complainer. It's just not good. So avoid that at all costs. Now, number 10 probably should be number 1, but stay off that damn phone. I get it. We all have Facebook and social media and emails and phone calls and texts to answer. But honestly, if you show up to a job site and you're the only guy that is never found on a phone at any point, you'll probably make a solid reputation for yourself just off of that. I can't count how many times I'm working on some project and somebody's in a scissors lift or an aerial lift and I need them to get me something, and then I look down and they're not even paying attention because they're on their damn phone, and then I have to make noise or shout at them just to get their attention, and it's annoying as hell. So don't be that guy that's on the phone, especially when you're a new hire. I get it, if you've been around a place 15 years, you earned a right to take it easy a little bit. But when you're new, don't be doing that. Make a reputation that you're never on your phone, because trust me, at some point, someone's going to make an issue out of it where if you complain about somebody else, they're going to say, well, you're always on your phone too. Well, guess what? If you're never on your phone, that's not something that people can use against you. And the last thing I'm going to mention is don't be a 007. When I heard this, I laughed to myself because it's pretty funny. And it's simple. A 007 is zero motivation, zero skill, and 7 smoke breaks, aka the guy that shows up, clocks in, and you never see him again until lunch, doesn't do anything. That might look like something cool to be that person, but guess what? In the long run, that person's never going to get any higher than where they're at. They're probably going to get fired a lot. And at the end of the day, they're not going to have enough stability in their life to ever achieve anything. So don't be that person. Well, beyond that, if you got any recommendations, thoughts to add to this video to help people, feel free to leave them. Otherwise, until next time.